Twisted terror, terror's cry. Twisted terrors in the body, that funny man of fuse that lie. These are my top 10 screams of 25. Every frame a little way I died. I hit play, then I pray, then I stay for the fear. Every title like a knife in my spine.
What is going on, horror fanatics? Zomboy here. You're watching another episode of Twisted Terrors. On this episode, I'm going to be talking about my top 10 horror movies of 2025. I'll jump right into it. My number 10 is going to be Predator: Badlands. This movie was directed by Dan Trachtenberg. You might know him from 10 Cloverfield Lane, Prey, Killer of Killers. The only reason I think it's so low on my list, the first time I watched this, I did not care for it at all. I really felt like it had more CGI than Avatar, and to me, it was really taking away from the movie. I will say, after watching it, I did keep thinking about the movie, so I decided to rewatch it, and I went into it with a little bit different of a mind frame, and I did enjoy the movie. My number 9 movie is Companion. That movie is directed by Drew Hancock. The things I liked about this movie is I felt like it had a good twist. This is a AI gone wrong movie, which I think right now where AI is taking over on the internet, what a good time for this movie to come out. I will say I wish they didn't give so much away in the trailer for this movie, because I felt like if they would have held back a little bit more, this would have been further up on my list. My number 8 horror movie of 2025 is The Rule of Jenny Penn. This movie's directed by James Ashcroft. This movie's starring Jeffrey Rush and John Lithgow. And what an amazing performance from these two in this movie. You know, this movie is not frightening, scary, but it is real life horror about a man losing his self-reliance in life and dealing with a bully. And it was scary in a whole nother way. You know, this guy going from this powerful judge to having a stroke and being in a retirement home, stuck with a man who has a doll on his hand, who basically runs this place with an iron fist and makes people kiss Jenny's rear end. But that is my number 8. My number 7 for this list is VHS Halloween. This had such great segments. The Halloween vibes throughout were amazing, and I really felt like the VHS segments have been getting better and better every year. And again, this year, I think they knocked it out of the park, especially with, I think my favorite one on this is Home Haunt, the very last one. Being such a Halloween lover myself and haunted house lover, this one just was a whole nother level for me, and I highly enjoyed it. Number 6 on this list is going to be 28 Years Later. Now, I know this one's going to be very controversial because there's a lot of people that didn't like that movie. The complaints I heard about it was it just didn't know where it wanted to go and it wasn't coherent, but I felt like this really stuck to the normal style of movie these are. I liked the contrast in story, the masculine side from when he goes to the mainland with his father versus the feminine when he goes with his mother. I will say this might have been higher up on my list, but the ending on this movie was terrible, and it confused me more than anything else because it just didn't fit any part of this movie.
1, 2, 3, 4.
It was like, it was a scary horror zombie movie, and then it went to this silly ending that I felt like it didn't know what it wanted to be. So I think that brought it down a little bit for me. The number 5 on the list is going to be Final Destination Bloodlines. This movie was directed by Zap Lipovsky and Adam Stein, and what a good send-off for Tony Todd in this movie. You know, there's not many actors that get to continue a role, especially at his age and his health he was in. For him to star in this and kind of put a close to his character before he passed away in real life, I thought that was beautifully done. The kills in this were amazing as always. You know, that's the one thing about the Final Destinations. It always has fun, creative kills. And especially the MRI kill in this movie. That was freaking awesome. And I loved that this one stuck to practical effects as much as possible. Obviously, they can't have the Seattle Space Needle falling down, so they used CGI in some areas, but a lot of the kills were practical effects, and you can see the behind the scenes. And to me, it shows, and I highly enjoyed that. So that made that number 5. Number 4 on my list is going to be The Black Phone 2. This movie was directed by Scott Derrickson. You might know him from The Black Phone, Sinister, The Exorcism of Emily Rose, Hellraiser Inferno. This was a great continuation of what I thought was already a good story, but this one had some like Nightmare on Elm Street vibes, I felt like, with him coming through from the afterlife. I thought it was fun. Ethan Hawke is absolutely amazing. His role as the grabber is perfect. I love him. So that brought that to my number 4. Number 3, The Conjuring Last Rites. Again, this one's pretty high on my list. I will say this is probably not as high on most people's list because I was reading some of the reviews online and I felt like they were pretty harsh, which, you know, I think there's some times in this movie where I agree with that. This movie was directed by Michael Chavez from The Conjuring, The Devil Made Me Do It, which I did not like. The Nun 2, which I thought was okay, and La Llorona, which I did not like. So his track record isn't the greatest. I did enjoy this movie just because it had very strong performances all the way around. It was scary. I love the spirits. And for this being the last Conjuring, I enjoyed seeing the Warrens again working together. And to me, it was still a fun movie. Was it a perfect movie? Not by any means. But it still was fun to watch, and I anticipated that one a lot. Number 2 on my list is going to be Weapons. This movie was directed by Zach Cregger. You might know him from Barbarian, also a great movie. I love the original story to this. You know, you're following multiple characters trying to come up with a conclusion of what's happening in the movie, and I felt like they held back the information for just long enough to keep you wondering what was going on, why these kids disappeared, and why they ran away the way they did. And then they brought on Aunt Gladys, who I thought this character was amazing. So well acted. The gore in this movie is insane. There is some absolute great kills in this, especially the very last one. But this was a fun movie to watch. Luckily, I didn't really see too many trailers before I watched this one, so I didn't know what I was getting into. So I was very happily surprised. And that brings me to my number 1 movie of 2025. It hasn't been on my list yet, so I bet you can guess what it is. Sinners. This movie was directed by Ryan Coogler. I mean, this movie was amazing. The performances in this movie all around were all great, especially Michael B. Jordan, for him to play the role of both brothers. I mean, it was seamless. You would guess it was 2 people. I love that you basically get 3 different stories in this movie. None of them were boring to me. I was interested in all of them. The music progression scene in this movie blew my mind. The first time I watched it, when it first started, I was like, what is happening? By the end of it, I was like, well, that was the coolest thing that could have ruined the movie. I mean, you could have screwed that up in so many ways. And they didn't. They pulled it off, and it was amazing. This movie's gory, and the music was great. The vampires were fantastic. The vampires do this Irish jig that was awesome as well. You know, it's a long movie, but I actually enjoyed all of it. I wasn't bored at all through this movie, and I highly recommend this one if you haven't seen it. Like I said, it's not going to be for everyone. You know, it starts off as like a period piece. There's a lot of racism in this. You know, it's at the tail end of slavery, but the Ku Klux Klan are still around, and so you have two African-American brothers dealing with the Ku Klux Klan. So you get that. You get an amazing musical side to this movie, and then it comes to horror when the vampires come out. So this movie's just, I felt like it was perfect all the way around, and then it ended amazing as well. So beginning to end, I enjoyed this movie. I went back and I watched it again. Even the second time around, I enjoyed it just as much as the first. So that is why that one is my number one of 2025 horror movies. My best performance of the year I gave to Michael B. Jordan for Sinners, because he did outstanding. I mean, I'm a big fan already. Best kill I gave to Weapons for the Aunt Gladys kill, where the kids tear her apart at the end of this movie. It's a gory mess. And then a runners up, I gave it to Final Destination Bloodlines for the MRI kill. So that is my favorite horror movies of 2025. I appreciate watching this video. This is Zomboy saying keep it scary, and I'll see you on the next video. Bye.